Hello and welcome back to the channel. So in the last video we looked at how to break down this UI you see here, and in this video we're looking at how to build the home page. So if you haven't watched the first video, I would recommend you look at it, or if you're comfortable with breaking down UIs in Flutter and knowing which widget to use when building UIs, then you are good to go. So we'll be looking at how to convert this UI here into Flutter code, right? So on my right here I have a preview of what we're building, and this is the page we'll be working on today, or this is going to be our final output for today, right? So it's going to be a little different from what we have here because I'm using material 3, and then I have most of my buttons rounded instead of this match rectangular shape, right? So this is what we'll be working on today, and let's get right into the video. Here in Android Studio I have a Flutter app running, and in my app I've first made some few configurations. So the first thing I'm doing over here is I've set my color scheme to use a seed color of green, right? And then I have material 3 turned on by default, and I'm also using a text theme of Moolish text theme that's coming from the Google Fonts package. So we will need some few packages in our project, and I've already added them. So let's take a look at them. In our pubspec.yaml file, we will need 3 dependencies. So we need a Flutter icon dependency. That will be the icons we will use for the bottom navigation bar, and then the filter, basically the icons you'll be using, and then the Google Fonts package, that's going to be the fonts you'll be using for this project, and then the badges package or dependency. So the badges dependency will help us create these badges you see here, or this badge you see here, right? So these are the only packages or dependencies we will need for now. As we go on, if there is the need to add more, we will do so. So that's going to be for the dependencies aspect. Now under the assets, I have an assets directory over here. So if I open my file explorer, I have assets directory over here, and I have a few assets or images that we'll be using for this project. So let's get right into the code. And in the main.dat file, I have a home page widget here, and within the home page widget is just an empty page that returns a scaffold, right? So if I move to the running app, there is the already built one. So there's the app that's returning the empty scaffold. So in order to test that, let's have a text in the center of the page. Yeah, and that works. So this will be starting from. In order to build out this page, so looking at the design, the first place we'll be starting from is the Appbar, right? So let's first start working on the Appbar, and we know that the left section over here, which is going to be our drawer, and this section is going to be our title, and this is going to be a button in our actions, right? So let's quickly do that. And within the scaffold we can have an Appbar. So there is an Appbar property, and that takes an Appbar widget like this, but then we can't put the const here, so we have to remove that. And when we save, we're going to have an Appbar, but it seems invisible because of material 3, right? So what we could do is, let's first set a drawer. When we put a drawer there, that is going to make our Appbar visible. So if we put a drawer here and then set the property to just a normal drawer like this, and that is going to make our Appbar visible. So this will allow us to open a drawer using the default drawer icon from Flutter. So we can add const here like this, and now within our Appbar we may want to have these 2 texts here. So the text, which is the hi and then the username, and then enjoy your services in the title. So in the Appbar title property, we're going to have a column with some children, and the first child is going to be the text that says hi Wilson. So you can put your name or anything there, and then we'll add our emoji. So there's the emoji I'm looking for, and it wasn't supposed to be there, so I'm going to cut it. When we save it, we have our hi Wilson here, and just below it we're also going to have our text that says enjoy our services, right? So these two looks very huge here, and we would have to style them. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure they all align to the left of the title, right? So we first go to the column and set the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment .start. So that will move the hi Wilson and then the enjoy your services to the left of the column, which is they are all starting. And then we also see that our title is centered by default. So in order to override that, there is a property in the Appbar that is called center title, and we can set that to false, and that's going to move our title to the left, so much closer to our menu or drawer button. Now we see that these are too huge, so let's style them, and then I'm going to style them individually. So I want them to have the text style of title medium, right? So that's going to be for the heading. In order to do that, I can access the text style for my theme, and because I'm using something for my theme, I can't have a cons here, so I'm going to save, and we just see that our hi Wilson shrink to the title medium text style size. So I'm going to copy the same thing for the style here as well, and I want to make this a bit smaller, so I'm going to make this body small like this, and now we are going to have our drawer and then our title like this. Now that is going to be for our title, so we can collapse this, and now the next is going to be our actions. So within the actions, we want to have our icon button that is going to show our bell icon. So icon button, and with the release of Flutter 3.0, we have variant of the icon button, and I'm going for the filled toner. So icon button.filled toner is a variant of the icon button that has a background color, and then the icon we are going to use is going to be the icon from our iconly package that we added. So we're going to have iconly, and then I'm going for the broken version, so iconly broken dot notification. So that's going to be the icon button we are going to use, and now we're just going to put our icon button here. Now one thing I want to do with the actions, or with most of my actions, they move to the far right, like they are to the far right, so I want to push them a bit to the left, and in order to do that, wrap it with a padding, and padding only on the right side, and then give it a value of 8, so that is the default value, and that is going to shift it to the left a bit. Now the next thing we'd have to look at is the badge, right? So in order to have the badge, you can check out the badges package on pub.dev, but then you just have to import the badges package as badges. So I want to just have the name as badges, right? And we are going to wrap our icon in the badges in a badge, right? So let's first wrap with a widget, and then the widget is going to be badges.badge, right? So if I add a constant and I save, realize that we have a small red indicator at the upper right of this icon button. So we can change the position of this badge actually. So we can check the properties, and one of the properties we can change is position, and the position is going to be our badges dot badge position. So badge position like this, and then I'm going to pass in a position, right? The reason why we have an error doesn't have an unnamed constructor, so we have to specify the position like this, and I want it to be at the top end. And also we have an error maybe because of the const. Yeah, so that should fix it. Top end, but then I want to change the value of the top end, so we can pass in a custom value, and by default we have the value of -8 and -10. So I'm going to pass in a value of -15, and the end should be -12. And if you're wondering how come I came up with these values, it's out of testing. So I tested with a value and I realized this works best. Also, within our badges, we want to have a text, right? So our badge content is going to be a text widget, and then this text is going to have any value, because this is just a UI project, not a fully functioning project. You can just put any value over here. Now let's style this text a bit. So you can use the style and then text style, and I want to change the color to colors.white. That's going to be my white color, and then the font size to be 12. Okay, so that's going to shrink it a bit. And the last thing is I want to style the badge itself. So we have the badge style here, and that's going to be our badges.badge style, and I'm going to change the badge color to be color green. So colors.green, like this, and that is going to be for our Appbar. So this is how we are going to build our Appbar. This is how our Appbar is going to be. Now after our Appbar, the next thing we are going to look at is going to be our bottom navigation bar to change our pages, right? So with the bottom navigation bar, each of these tabs are going to be an individual page, right? So we have an individual page for each tab. So in order to have those pages, I'm going to create a file within my pages directory. That's why I have my home page, and those files are going to be Flutter pages that represent the tabs. So the first page we are going to have is going to be called the explore page, which is going to be a stateless widget. So basically all our pages will be stateless. So explore page, and let's import material like this. We are also going to have our services page, right? So like this, and then services page. We are going to also have our cart page like this, and for this I'm going to copy the services page and paste it in the cart page, and then change the name. So change the name to cart page, and our last page is going to be the profile page. Profile page like this. So those are going to be our pages. Now in the home page, we are going to have a list of pages, and then based on which bottom navigation bar item is active, we are going to show one of those pages in the body. So just under your state, you can have a variable to hold the pages, and I'm going to call it pages, just as you would expect. And this is going to be all our pages. So we are going to have our explore page, and then our services page, our cart page, and then our profile page. We have to also keep track of which page we are on. So in order to do that, I'm going to create a variable called current index, and that is going to represent the index of the current page we are on. So initially that's going to start at 0, and that means we are going to be on the first page, which is the explore page. Now within our body, so just outside the app bar and within the body, we can have our pages and then selecting our current index. So if the current index is 0, that is going to select our explore page. If it's 1, that is going to select our services page. And realize we get this giant placeholder over here, and that's because our explore page just returns a placeholder. So if we put a scaffold here, and then within the scaffold we have a body with a text in the center, so more like child text explore. Realize that we have the explore showing here, right, which means that's the current page. Now within the scaffold we are going to have our bottom navigation bar. So our bottom navigation bar is going to have bottom navigation bar widgets, and this bottom navigation bar widget is expecting a required argument called items. Now these items should have at least 2 bottom navigation bar items within it. So we are going to have a bottom navigation bar item, and the bottom navigation bar item should have an icon and a label. So for our first bottom navigation bar item, the icon is going to be our home icon. So our home icon coming from the iconlist package, the icon package we added. So iconly light.home, and then our label is going to be home. And I'm going to duplicate this several times and change the icons as well as the text. So we are going to have home services, cards, and then profile, and the icons are going to be phone or call, so call, and then we are going to have buy for the cart, and then we are going to have profile, right? So when I save, these icons are there but they are not showing, right? So in order to fix that, within the bottom navigation bar we can pass in a property called type, and I'm going to set the type to bottom navigation bar type dot fixed, and that will fix that for us, right? So I'm first add const modifier everywhere here and here as well. Now one thing we want to do is change the icon when the bottom navigation bar is active. So if the home is active, we want it to be the filled version of the home. So in order to do that, we can just have a property here called active icon. An active icon just taking an icon like the normal icon property, and I'm going to set it to iconly bold, which is the bold version of the home, right? So I'm going to do that for all the bottom navigation bar items. So now we have our home icon filled. That's the bold version of the home icon that is active. Now whenever we tap on this bottom navigation bar, we want to change the pages. So within the bottom navigation bar we have an on tap property, and that is going to give us the index of the bottom navigation bar item we are tapping on, and we can set that as our current index, which is the page we are on, right? So we can set state and then change our current index to be the index we are getting from this on tap. And now when we save, tapping on these services supposed to change these icons, right? And if everything is right, the icons should change as well. So let me hot restart to see if that fixes it. and for some reason our icons don't change. So let me find out why. Okay, so I realized the reason why our icons weren't changing was because we're not passing in our current index to the bottom navigation bar, so that it didn't know which index we're on. So we have to pass in our current index like this, and then our icons are going to change, right? Yeah, so that's going to be for the routing, and what we'll be focusing on much on this video is going to be the explore page. So that is going to be this page right over here. Now let's get right into it. And within the explore page, we are first going to have a list view in the body, and the reason for that is we want the whole body to be scrollable, right? So looking at the UI, realize that we wouldn't have all the content fitting on the screen, so we need a way to scroll, and the way we are going to do that is to have a list view or a single child scroll view or any other scrollable widgets you are familiar with in Flutter. So instead of this center, we are going to retain a list view, and we would have to move the cons here, right? And the children of this list view will first be the first child of this list view will be the search with the filter icon, right? So let's work on that. And we realize that the search icon and the filter button are in a row, so we are going to put both of them in a row widget. So within the children, our filter and search text field are going to be in a row. So let's have a row with some children. The first child is going to be our text field, and then we are going to have our icon button, and I'm going to use the icon button dot field. So that is going to give me a field version of the icon button, and our icon is going to be our iconly light dot filter, like this. But you see, we don't see anything on the screen, and the reason why we don't see anything on the screen is because if you have a text field in a row, the text field must be wrapped in an expanded widget or a flexible widget, right? So let's first wrap this widget, which is a text field, in an expanded widget, and we should see something on the screen, right? In our body, we want to have space around the body itself, so we don't want the widgets in the body to be touching the edges of the screen. So the first thing I'm going to do is to have a padding within the list view. So we can have a padding all around and give it a value of 16. So that is going to make sure that we have padding around the body. So the next thing is to style our text field. So in styling our text field, we are going to use the decoration and remove the cons from here. So within the decoration, we are going to pass in an input decoration, right? And with this input decoration, we are going to first have a hint text. That's the text we want to see in the search field. So the hint text is going to be search here with 3 dots like this, and that is going to appear here, right? Now, after the hint text, we are going to set some extra properties here. So the first property we'll be setting is dense, right? And then we are going to set this to true. So that is going to decrease the size of our text field. So we're going to make it smaller, right? Now, we don't want to have an underlined version of the text field. We want to have a border version. So in order to do that, I'm going to first change the border, and then the border we are going to have is going to be our outlined input border. And with this outlined input border, if I save, we are going to have this border you see over here. This is not exactly what we want, so we may need to edit it a bit. So within our outlined input border, right, we have the border radius property, and I'm going to pass in a border radius of a very big value. So border radius dot all, and then I'm going to pass in radius dot circular. So like this, and passing the value of 99. So that is going to make this over here very rounded, right? So that's going to be a very big border radius. And now if I add a const here, we should have this one is gone. Also, I want to have a border side. So if this thing is not focused, this is how the border side looks like, right? So I want to change this border side. So we could make a lighter version of the border instead of this much darker version. So we could use the border side, and then change the color. So our color is going to be colors dot gray, and then a shade of 300, right? And we may have to move the cons from here, and that should give us a lighter version compared to what we had previously. Also, we want to have a prefix icon. So realize that in the design we had an icon in the search bar. So in order to have a similar icon, there is a property in the search bar called which is a text field called prefix icon. So we can use that prefix icon and then set it to an icon from our iconly package. So iconly light dot search, and that is going to be our prefix icon, right? Now realize that our text field is too huge, right? So we want to reduce the padding within the search field, and one way you can do that is to use the content padding property and then pass in edge insect and then a value of 12. So I experimented and realized that the 12 value will be good, and it will give me the sizing I want, right? So that's going to be the space I want. Also, our button, which is our filter button, is very close to our search field. So in order to fix that, just wrap our icon button in the padding widget and set the padding to be only left, right, with a value of 8, or if you want more value we can put 12 here, and that should be okay, right? So that is going to be for our search portion of the UI. So the next thing we'll be focusing on is this card over here, right? So this consultation card. So consultation card, and our consultation card is going to be a normal card widget, and we need a comma over here, right? So that's going to be a normal card widget, and when we save for now, we're not going to see anything on the screen. It's because there is nothing in this card. But then what I want to do is I want to have a fixed height for this card. So I'm going to wrap the card in a sizer box and then give it a height of 170. So that's going to give me a fixed size Z card. And now we all see that our card is very close to our text field. So what we can do is to wrap our text field, which is the row, in a padding widget, and then give it a padding of only bottom, and then the value should be 15. And you could use sizer box for this as well, right? So giving it a padding of 15 looks good. You can give it any padding you want, just any amount of space that looks good for you, or as according to the design, right? So this is what we have for our card, and we need to do some style on it. So the first thing we'll be doing in the card is changing its color, right? So I want to change the color a bit, and I'm going to use the color property and set it to colors.green.shade50. So that's going to be a match green card we have over here. Now also I want to change the elevation to 0.1. That's going to reduce the shadow we have on the card. I also want to change the color of the shadow we are having. So I'll use the shadow color property and set to colors.green.shade50 like this, and then that will be for the card, the styling of the card. You can change if you want to have a border around the card, you can use the shape property, but then I'm okay with what I have over here. So the next thing is going to be a child within our card, and then the child is going to be a column with some children. Now within the column, so according to the design we have over here, within the column or within our card, we should have a row instead, right? So I thought it's going to be a column, but it's supposed to be a row because of these two. So we should have a row, and then one of the children of the rows will be a column. So back here we are going to wrap this column in a row, and within the row we are going to have this column, right, which is going to hold all our text, and then we are going to have our image. So our image here, and then our text here like this, right? So that the column will hold our text whilst we have an image widget here to have our image, right? Now let's put our text here, and the first text we have is free consultation, right? So I'm going to copy this text like this, and then have a text widget to display that. Now the first problem we get into is that our text is touching the edges of our card. So in order to fix that, we wrap the first child within the card, which is a child of the card, in a padding widget, and then give it any padding that will be good for this. So give it a padding of 12, and then there's going to be space within around the card, right? So within the card. And now let's style our text. So the style for this text is going to be our title large text style. So theme.of context, the text theme, the title large, right? And then we are going to change the color of this title large. So I'm going to copy that with a color, and I'm going to set the color to colors.green.shade700. So that's going to be our text theme title large, and then updating the color to be this green color we have over here. Now after this, the next thing we are going to have is going to be our text. So if I come back to the UI, we have this get free support here. Right, and I'm going to paste that here in a text widget like this, and realize the column is automatically centering everything. So in order to fix that, we just set the cross-axis alignment to cross-axis alignment start, and that is going to make sure that everything is starting from the left of the column. Now the next thing is going to be our button, and Flutter has introduced a new button called filled button. So I'm going to use the filled button instead of the elevated button, and the child is going to be a text that says call now. Right, and this is what we are going to have. So for now, I want to spread this. Right, so I want to have an equal spacing between this, more like spaced between. Right, so not an equal spacing technically, but then the space between. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to set the main axis alignment to main axis alignment dot space between, and that is going to give me equal spacing in between these items. Right, so the next thing we are going to have is going to put our image here. Right, so in my assets I have an image called contact us, which is this illustration over here, and that's what we are going to use. So just outside the column but in the row, we are going to use an image widget and then image.asset. Right, so that's going to be an asset image, and it's going to be our asset slash contact us.png. And if we put that there, realize we are getting overflow issues. So in order to fix that, I want the column to only take the space remaining after our image has been sized, right? And also I want to reduce the size of the image a bit, so I'm going to set a width of 140 and then wrap the column in a widget called flexible. So that will make sure that our image gets sized or positioned given the 140 width, and then the remaining space is given to our column, right? And the column distribute that to its children. So that's going to be for our card. So after our card, we are going to have our featured product, right? So the featured product, because we want to also have spacing before the featured product, I'm going to wrap this sizer box in the padding widget and then give it a padding of only bottom and a value of 15. Right, so that's going to give us space for anything that will come below the card. And now we are going to have this text over here and then this button, see all button here. Right, so just below the padding, we are going to have a row with children, and then the first child is going to be our featured product. I'm going to copy this, then have a text widget here and then paste the featured product here. Right, so this is what we have, and then we can have a text button and the child is going to be see all. Right, so this is what we have. Now let's have some space between these texts or these widgets. So in the row, we're going to use the main axis alignment and set the main axis alignment to space between, and that is going to space out these texts. And let's start our text, which is the featured product, a bit, and I'm going to use a text style from my theme. So theme.of context, the text theme, and I'm going for my title medium. And there's the text I want to use for this. You can go for the title large if you want to have a much bigger text, but then I prefer the title medium for this. And that is going to be our heading for our featured product. So below that, we are going to have our featured product. So featured product, and our featured product is going to be a grid view, right? So a grid view, and it is going to return us a card like this. So we are going to use the grid view builder widget, grid view builder, and then our item builder will return us the widget we want, right? So let's for the item builder, let's just return a card for now, like this. And then in the grid delegate, we are going to pass in a sliver grid delegate. So I'm going to pass in a sliver grid delegate with fixed cross axis count. So that will mean I'm going to have a fixed number of columns, right? So with fixed cross axis count, the cross axis count is going to be 2, which is the number of columns I want. Also, I want to have a cross axis spacing, right, of 16, which is the spacing in the cross axis, and then the main axis spacing of 16 as well. For now, we don't see anything on our screen because probably this grid view is throwing an error because it says a scrollable widget within another scrollable widget, which is the list view, right? So in order to fix that, I'm first going to set a property called shrink wrap to be true, and then I'm going to also set a fixes to be never scrollable phases. Again, I'm going to set an item count of 4, right? And we still don't see anything because we are returning just a card and there is nothing in our card. So if I return a child and a text, hi, we should see something on our screen. And I don't know why they are not showing up, but let me add property over here, which is child aspect ratio, and I'm going to give it a value of 0.9, and that still doesn't fix our issue. So let's hot restart. I'll probably check the console to see what we have done wrong. So hot restart is not working, so I'm going to stop the app and then run it again. So after hot restarting the app, our cards are now showing, right? So this is the spacing we want to have, right? And this shows how big your card is going to be, right? So varying this child aspect ratio will decrease and increase the height of the card. So let's assume if I use 0.8, that's going to increase the height of the card. So a much smaller value is going to increase the height, and then a much bigger value is going to reduce the height. So I realized that 0.9 is a very good height for me. Now instead of returning the whole card UI here, we are going to create a custom widget called product card, and that's what we are going to return. So in the file explorer, I'm going to create a new directory called widgets, and then our first widget is going to be our product card. So product card, and it's going to be a stateless widget, and this is going to return us the card, right, like this. And now instead of using the card over here, we are going to return the product card. Now we are going to do our UI within the product card, right? So within the product card, we first want to have our image, right, with a button on top of it. I've made a short video illustrating how you can achieve that, and I'm going to link it in the description as well. But then in this video, we'll go over the process again. So instead of using a stack to achieve the icon button on top of the image, we are going to use a container instead. And let's look at how to do that. So first, let's have a child, and then our child is going to be a column to hold our children, right? So this is where our children are going to be. So the image, and then the pricing, the text, everything is going to be within the column. And let's style our card a bit as well. So the first thing we want to change on our card is going to be the elevation. So I'm going to set the elevation to be 0.1, and that's going to give us this elevation over here, so very light shadows. And then I'm going to change the border, right? So for now we don't have any border around it, we just have a small amount of shadow here, and I want to add a border, right, an actual border on it. So I can use the shape property and then set the shape to be rounded rectangle border, which is a shape in Flutter, and that's going to make the shape that's going to give us a shape with no border radius. And then we are going to pass in our own border radius, and that's going to border radius dot all, and then radius dot circular. And I'm going to pass in the value of 10, right, and that's going to bring us back to the default radius we had. Now, one advantage we get with the shape property is that we can customize the border. So we have the side property, that's going to take in a border side. And when I say we have this black borders here, so I'll change the color to be colors.gray, and then a shade of 200. And then we'll have to move the cons from here as well, and that's going to give us this shade of gray. And we realize that this is very thick, right? So much more thicker than we expected. So just have to change the width to be 0.4 or 0.2, right? So something like this look okay for me, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to border around your card or not. Now, within our children, we are first going to have the container, right? And our container is going to have a fixed height, which is going to be 120. So I want our container to always be 120, which is somewhere around this height, right? And then the width is going to be 100%, so double dot infinity. And we are going to have a decoration. So within the decoration, that's where we are going to put our image. So decoration, and then we pass in a box decoration. Within the box decoration, we have an image property, and then we are going to pass in a decoration image. So with the decoration image, we can pass in an image itself, and then the image is expecting an image provider. So we are going to pass in an asset image. The asset image is expecting an asset. So for now, I'm going to use assets / tractor dot jpeg, if I'm right, like this. And there's what we are going to have. Now I'm going to change the fit. So just outside the image, but within the decoration image, I'm going to change the fit to be box fit dot cover. and that is going to fill out our entire card. Now realize that our image is overflowing the card, so at the upper section it's no longer rounded. In order to fix that, just within the card we can clip out anything that overflows. So we have the clip behavior, and then we set it to clip dot anti-alias, and that is going to clip the edges of this card when something overflows it. So that is going to give us our background image like this. And now we need a way to put the icon button on top. So within the container we are going to have a child, and the child is going to be our icon button, which is the icon button we want to put on top of the image. So we are going to use the icon button dot fill toner version, and then the icon is going to be our icon iconly light. So iconly light dot bookmark, and this is what we are going to get for the first time. And in order to fix it, we are going to use the alignment property. So alignment, and then set the alignment to be alignment dot top right. So that's where we want our card to be, our icon button to be. Now let's fix the size of our icon button. It looks very huge. So one simple way we can do that is to use the sizer box and then passing a width. So I'm going to use the width and height of 30, which looks okay to me. But then we realize that our icon is too huge for such a small width. So within the icon button we can change the icon size and then set it to 18, and that should fix it. So we should have a much smaller icon. But then realize that our icon button is touching the edges of our container, right? And that's not what we want. So we have to also fix that within the container. We're going to the padding property and then set the padding to all around, and then give it a value of 8. So something like this should fix it. And maybe we need to remove the padding within the icon button itself. So realize that we still don't have our icon centered within the icon button. So within the icon button there is this padding property, and we can set it to hinsert.0. So that's going to move the padding within the icon button, and then it will center our icon, right? And with this we can position our icon anywhere we want. So top center, right, top left, or bottom. So anywhere you want to put this, you can easily put it without thinking about using stack and then a positioned widget. So I'm going to put it back to top right like this, and that is going to be for our image. Now just below our image we have our title, which is the title, the name of the product, and then we have this text, and then a button, right? So something like add button, add to cart, or whatever you want that button to do. So just below that we are going to have a column, right, another column, and the reason why we are going to have this column is we want to have padding around everything within the column. So if you put the text just below the container, applying the padding will be a little tricky. You would have to wrap the padding widget around the text and then around the next text again. So putting everything in the column makes it much simpler. So within the column we're going to have a children, and then our first text is going to be the product name. So in this case tractor, like this. And let's wrap our padding here. So wrap its padding, and then we are going to accept the default value, which is 8. Now we don't want this centered, so use the cross axis alignment property and set it to start, and that still doesn't fix our issue. So let's come back to this first column and set the cross axis alignment to start again here, and that should fix it, right? So this is what we have here. Now we can change we can increase the size of our text, which is the product text. So I'm going to use a text style from my team, and then I'm going for body large, right? So, and also I need to remove the cons from here as well, so that will increase the size of our title a bit. Now within the column, right, where we have our title, we are going to have a row, right? So the row is going to be for the price and then this button, right? So just after this, we are going to have a row, and the children of the row, the first one is going to be our text over here, right? But realize that our text is styled in a special way. We have a bigger text slash a smaller text. So a simple way you can do that is to use the rich text widget. So I'm going to minimize this, and then back to the code, we're going to use a rich text, and this rich text takes in a text span. So we're going to pass in a text span, and this text span can take in children and then extra text spans. So it's more like a nested kind of thing. So the children, we're going to pass in a text span, not text, and it is going to be the product price. So first I want to escape the dollar symbol, and then we can have let's say 25, maybe 35, like this. Text span, sorry, so the text span has to the text within the text span has to be in a text property like this. Yeah, so something like this. And we don't say anything because we don't have any style applied to the text span, if I'm right. So let me just get some style here. So within the text span, I'm going to add a style, and the style is going to be my body large. So I'm going to just copy this one over here like this, and I need a comma here as well. Sorry, not here, so it has to be here instead, right? So this is what we are going to have. Now we want to have some spacing between the title and then the pricing. So I'm going to wrap this text in a padding and give it a padding of only bottom, and then a value of 8 looks good, right? So we are going to have this. And now in the rich text, we are first going to have the text span. They're also going to have another text span that is going to be the unit. So I'm going to duplicate this, and the only difference is that instead of this being a body large, it's going to be body small, and then the value is going to be, let's say, per year or something like that. So something like this, right? And then outside that, so I'm going to collapse this. We are going to have our icon button. So icon button dot filled, so dot filled, which is the version I want for this. And then our icon is going to be our normal icon dot add. Now that's going to be very huge for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the size of the icon button. So first wrap it in a sizer box, and then change the width and height. So I'm going to give it a width of 30 and a height of 30, and also I have to move the padding from here. So edge inset dot 0. Right, now the only thing left is we have to have a space between these things. So within the row, I'm going to have a main axis alignment, and then pass the main axis alignment dot space between. So at the end of the day, this is what we are going to have. Now in order to have different variants of products, So instead of using this hard-coded values, I'm going to create a model for a product, right? So back in our file explorer, I'm going to create a model which is in a directory called models, and then a file called product, and that is going to be a blueprint of what a product is. So I'm going to create a class called product, and that is going to describe the properties of a product. So a product will first have a name which is of type string, and then we can have a description, and then we can also have an image. So this is supposed to be a string, so these are going to be the properties of a product. Now I'm going to generate the constructor for this, like this, and then we need some data to fill out this page. So back in the file explorer again, I'm going to create a directory called data, and then I'm going to create a file called product, and that's going to be a list of products. So list of products, and I'm going to call it products, and it's first going to start as an empty list. So I'm going to import this, and then we are going to have a product here which will have a name, description, unit, and then rating. So instead of writing all these from scratch, I'm going to copy this product and then paste them. So I've copied and pasted this product. We just have a name, assets, units, and then the rating, right? So back in our explore page, instead of having an item count that is just 4, that is going to be our product.length. That's the number of products we have. And now in our product card, we are going to be taking the product. So product, and then product like this, and then we have to pass this to the constructor, so like this, and then that's going to throw an error because we are not passing the product now. So we have to pass in our product, and that's going to be our product index. So whatever product we are looping over, right? And then we pass in that particular product. Now back in the product card, we can replace the hard-coded value. So over here, we can have product.name, right? And then we realize that the name changed, and we can have product.price, and then product.unit, and then we can change the image as well. So within the container decoration asset image, we can pass in our product.image, and we have to move the cons from here, and now we have these products, right? This for the first part, and that's going to be the home page, right? And if you want to see the services page, the cards page, and probably the profile page, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification, and you get updated when I release that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.